I thought I was going to die before I get to see any of the bands, because, like, you cannot do this in 2022. We are not barbarics. Hi, I'm Milena, To Be Honest Studios. Welcome back. Good morning, folks. You might be wondering why there was no coffee talk on Monday, and that was because I actually got to go to Vienna and see Hella Mega live. Now, I've never seen any of these bands before live, so to me it was a thing that was a very long time coming, especially since I vividly remember when they announced that Green Day and Fall Out Boy were working on something together. This is way before we knew Weezer was in it, so a long time waiting. I know fellow Americans got the chance to see them earlier, and maybe other people have done reviews, but I'm not just gonna do a general review. I'm actually gonna do a review on some aspect that obviously annoyed me, but mostly I will focus on the band experience and visual experience, because again, this is what we do here. We talk about visual experiences. So stick to the end to see which bands I personally, transparently think they should do something about their performances and actually do some constructive criticism, because we're not here to bash anyone. We love everyone, and we're just trying to do everyone's experience get a little bit better and everyone's performances maybe get a little bit better if they're willing to listen, obviously. But I doubt anyone from the bands are going to be watching this, so the only thing I hope to get out of this is actually talk about these things, because not a lot of people online have been mentioning these. I've seen only a few Reddits here and there talking about these things. So I'm going to start by saying the venue was amazing. It was huge. It was in Vienna. Vienna is nothing new to me. What was new to me was the fact that nobody announced beforehand that, hey, we will be closing traffic before the show happens. And I actually got a Uber-like service together. I wasn't far away from the venue, but I thought, hey, I'm running late, so I might as well not be late. But to my surprise, the service actually took me the fare to get there, but actually the driver could only drive me like 2 streets away from where I started the trip, which was quite annoying because, honestly, I could get without paying a full trip and just getting 10% out of it. Also, I was late, and it's quite annoying to be told on the spot that, hey, we've closed traffic, so now you have to run to the venue for your life in Doc Martens, in which you already have quite a bit of a problem walking. Because I've been visiting the other day, and obviously I had no spare shoes, and obviously I ruined my feet on the first day in the Doc Martens. But that aside, it was a bit inconvenient that I had to run to the venue not to lose Weezer, but I said, it's nothing. I've waited so long to see these bands live. I've been pouring my heart and soul into this moment. I'm not gonna let this ruin my day. I am happy to see the bands. And then I got to the venue and I wanted to order a beer. And they told me they have a cash-only policy. And because I'm not smart, I had no cash whatsoever on me. And it's not fun knowing that you have to sit 5 hours in the sun to be told that you cannot get a drink of water without paying in cash. Now, I'm saying this because I worked in venues before for quite some time, and I've actually worked in a city that, in my opinion, I don't think is very Western or civilized as Vienna would like to propose itself. So to me, it was quite a surprise that I had no way of getting a drink of water while I was at the venue. Not even to mention any other type of drink. But it was okay. I was there to see the bands. I was very annoyed, but I was happy to be there. I'm never going back to Vienna to see a show. 100% my fault. Should have done the research. Should have had some cash on me. Anyways, moving on, let's get to the people themselves. Now, I've been to a lot of shows. Again, I worked in a music venue, actually more venues, and I've seen people from folk music to Slipknot to Slayer, the final tour, and I have not in my life seen people so rowdy, so rude, and so pushy. Now, I know getting in the front rows is hard, especially at a Green Day, Fall Out Boy, Weezer show. And I did not put up a fight trying to get in the front, but I was somewhere in the middle-ish of the front area. And to my surprise, I noticed a lot of tall, hunky, violent men, very drunk, trying to push women aside to get in the front, which was quite annoying, to be perfectly honest, but It is what it is. The culture may be different. Maybe you need to be more manly to assert dominance and not be pushed aside. So, all in all, I decided to step back and just watch everything from a distance, which was amazing because way in the back, it was me, a lot of younger or older women who were having as much fun as I was. But all in all, I think that the context of the concert was not a good one, for me at least. I've seen bad crowds in London. I've seen the way people push there, but good God, bad communication, bad service, and bad people. But at least we had the bands. So let's get to the bands, because like nobody wants to hear me complain, and actually talk about visuals and the way I've been blown by some of them. Now to me, a very, very pleasant surprise was Weezer, because I always associated their songs to not a very elaborate aesthetic. I know lately they did this thing where they went for kind of parodying some old rock bands, and I was really digging the aesthetic, but I was actually outstandingly surprised by the way they set up their stage. And I was actually disappointed at how little people were there when the show started. At least in the front of stage area, I think it was only 30% of the people filling the space. And it was quite a shame to see them pouring their souls into the performance and not seeing a lot of people around. Now, what I liked about their stage setup is the aesthetic and the colors they chose. They actually had confetti in the same exact colors, and everything actually looked so vintage, American-ish rock music. They were like taken out of an 80s commercial, but put in a rock band, a dad rock band, and I love the aesthetic, I love the look, it fits them so well, and they totally had a lot of fun, and I totally felt that, and that made it such a great experience, and I'm totally gonna want to see Weezer again, because I was told they're gonna surprise me, but I did not expect to be this surprised. Now visually, after Weezer took everything down, obviously it was time for Fall Out Boy to come with the thingies. Now to me, when I first started seeing the things coming on stage, I was like, oh my god, this is going to be so wild. Because I saw these little flame things, and the first thing that I associated them was like Mania neon kind of aesthetic, which Mania, I know not a lot of people like, especially if you've been an older fan like I was, but the aesthetic from Mania was quite nice. So I was actually expecting something very colorful, very out there, and I got none of that. The first stage was something that was very gray-ish, a cave-ish life. Maybe I'm not into the lore enough to understand what was happening on stage, but I guess it was saved by the fact that they had this outstanding pyro performance. To me, because I've had in my country of origin an accident with pyrotechnics a few years ago, and it was one of the worst pyrotechnics accidents. I wasn't expecting to see pyro still happening in other countries, because I haven't seen pyro in a long time happening live. It was so complex, and it was so good. Especially because they started out with My Songs Know What You Did in the Dark, and was so on point aesthetically to have the fire, and they had some visuals with some red fire or something going on in the back, and everything was just on point. Before this, they had like this President Nixon kind of entry. I saw that they did this before. They always have this like pre-recorded entry and pre-recorded ending and some intermission, and I think that's a good thing, because it kind of enters you into the universe, if that makes sense. The way Shrek has the book at the beginning and at the end, that's exactly how I see this opening and closing bits. But they don't really tie into the overall aesthetic. Like, okay, I get it. I get the idea, the text, the whole thought process behind it makes sense, but aesthetically speaking, I think there should be a little bit more done on that aspect. I'm not going to talk about performance. I'm going to talk about it at the end, but I'm gonna just say this, I wasn't really surprised by the aesthetics. It wasn't exactly what I was hoping for, especially since I know Fall Out Boy really grew when it comes to aesthetics. Like, they had really, really bad merch before. Not that bad, but it was kind of bad. And now I actually found them to have the cutest merch I could ever ask for. And I only got this one, but actually I liked the other things as well, but I only got this. But kudos to the creator, and I'm gonna link them right here. I was really surprised to find them on social media, and I'm happy I did. They totally earned a follow from me, and you should follow them too because they make amazing graphic design. Also, moving on the second half of the show, they had this kind of cabin aesthetic, and I see why, because old fans totally get the cabin aesthetic. And I was quite pleasantly surprised to see the way they took Andy and they're like, you go up there, we go over here. Not to mention, I did not mention that Pete was wearing a skirt with a hoodie, and it was like super, super hot, heat wave hot outside. And he was wearing the hoodie and God knows what else, while Andy was shirtless, and I think he was in his boxers. So if you just watch footage from that, you wouldn't know what the weather was like at the venue. Like, how do you use a fire guitar and have a hoodie on and not have a stroke of heat because of heat or whatever? Anyways, moving on, Fall Out Boy was okay-ish visually. Could do a little bit more research into tying things up, especially when it comes to visuals in the background, because the backgrounds themselves, I think they don't really tie into what's going on, like the pre-recorded stuff that's happening in the background. Sometimes I feel like they're just Windows screensavers, especially with the floaty spinning things. Maybe tie them into the albums or songs better, because Youngblood Chronicles, for example, was a masterpiece of visual aesthetic, and I think they can go there. They can take that energy and go with it live. Mania was an amazing masterpiece visually, aesthetically, and so on. Fully Edu, and I think actually, if I think about it, every album was on point. So what gives? You can do it, boys. I see there's a lot of effort in, and I appreciate that, and I think it just needs a little bit more polishing. So obviously after Fall Out Boy, it kind of got dark, because up until that point it was obviously still early. It's June, days are longer, so obviously when Green Day started, it started to get darker outside, and that was an advantage. Everyone who goes to open air concerts know this. The bands who get to play last, they have the advantage of darkness, because darkness allows you to do a visual show like no other. Now, Green Day had this amazing thing put in place. They started the show with Bohemian Rhapsody, followed by Blitzkrieg Bop. Is that how you pronounce it? Yeah. It's been 7 years and I still don't know how to pronounce this song. I'm sorry. I can sing you the song, I can't pronounce the name alone. I'm sorry. So they used these two songs to sort of introduce the idea that the show is starting, but not come out on stage immediately. So the anticipation is growing. And not only that, but the people got into the Bohemian Rhapsody energy of singing along, and everybody was in the moment right there. And that is a masterpiece of performance. Getting the people to be there in the moment with you and engage, and you're not even on stage yet, and they're excited to have you come on stage, and then not come on stage and actually make this bunny persona come on stage and dance to the Ramones. That was amazing. And after that, they started with American Idiot, and it tied in very well into obviously the bunny outfit. And the colors, the lights, everything was tying into the eras, the aesthetics. And I do want to note the fact that they took really into consideration what aesthetic went with what song, and how they can reiterate the idea in a contemporary manner. They sang songs that applied to the city and the aesthetic and the period. If you don't know, it's June. I'm filming this in June. The The show took place in June. It's Pride Month, so they actually took the time to do a little Pride segment. And obviously they sang one of my all-time favorites, which I never thought I would ever hear live, and I'm so grateful. Like, I've been annoying people around me with how happy I am that I got to hear that song live. They sang King for a Day, and they actually did this whole LGBT color lighting, everything was happening on. It was really, really nice. And Billy managed to put on a show like no other, because I think that they knew how to tie in experience, persona, and I'm talking about Billy, humor, visual, and cameraman, because they actually used like what you would see on the screens on the side. It would be, let's say, Billy with his face, but they actually had simple basic filters that would scan the face and actually do like crosses over the eyes, X's over the eyes, whatever, or they would do special effects when they would introduce someone, and that was really a really nice touch that I have not yet to see any other band do. And I think it's such an easy thing to do. It's like everyone has one of these filters on their phones. It's not new technology, it's not groundbreaking, but it's nice to have in a show. Now, to do like a conclusion of everything, what I liked, what I did, and what I think the bands could work on, I would say this. Vienna, you need to work on the way you announce things, and you need to get yourself some POSs and allow people to pay with card at your shows, because I was not the only foreigner who had no idea that you had to carry cash with you. And I'm gonna tell you a tip. You're gonna sell a lot more if you let people pay with card, because people enjoy themselves more, and it's more likely they have more money on their cards than in their pockets. Trust me on that one. As for Weezer, totally on point. I have nothing to say about you. Literally nothing. Actually, I do have something to say. The audio, and I know this is not your fault. I know this is a venue thing, this is a production thing. The audio wasn't quite there, but you totally saved it with the aesthetics and the performance, and I'm so terribly sorry you had only that little people watching you. Like, I hoped a lot more people would have came to see you, because you deserve a way bigger crowd than you've had. As for Fall Out Boy, oh boy, I love Fall Out Boy like no other. And I am actually going to say that before the show came about, I was more excited for Fall Out Boy than anything else, because I was kind of expecting Green Day to be like grown old and tired and not be as exciting. And I was like, Fall Out Boy, they're still in their youth, to say so, and I was expecting them to be a lot more alive, if that makes any sense. But I've come to find out that Fall Out Boy don't really have a stage presence. I see Pete trying sometimes, I see Andy trying to kind of rowdy up sometimes. I know Joe cannot do the stinky leg anymore. I know he's not as mobile as before, and I totally see Patrick having fun, especially if you haven't seen it on Twitter. There was this one point when Patrick went backstage and forgot his mic and guitar because he was so excited to play. It was so cute. But I have nothing to say about performance technically. Everything was on point, every voice was on point. It was like they were playing off of a record player. It was so amazing, and I cannot explain how shocked everyone was when Patrick did both Elton John's and his voice in Save Rock and Roll. Everybody was like, no, he did not. But there's a lack of presence. There's a lack of charisma, I think. I feel like there's a wall between them and us. I'm not sure if that's from a place of anxiety or shyness, or if they or if they had a bad day, because sometimes bands don't really feel like performing. They had a bad day, they have a headache, the audio is bad, they had a fight backstage. It happens, it's normal. But to my sadness, I've read online that this is a common thing, that Fall Out Boy are not very energetic and not very talkative on stage, and I wish they would do more improv moments where they would just take the microphone and talk more, because I saw Pete talking a few times, but Patrick wasn't really talking, and neither of the other boys were. Like, I want to see, I don't know, Andy talk about some drum stuff, or Joe talk about, I don't know, his hair. I don't know anything at all. But overall, I am definitely going back to see Fall Out Boy, even if they do the same show, because it was still outstanding. As for Green Day, oh my god, it was so good. It was so good. Now, I wanted to see Green Day ever since I become of legal age to travel. I wanted to travel to see them, but I was too scared to go. I had to go across Europe, and I don't think that was the safest thing to do as a young solo, just of age woman. So I kind of hold back on that one, and then they kind of took a break from touring in Europe, and that was a shame because I was crying about not being able to see them again. I was scared they're not gonna be touring, especially since I know they took a break at some point and Billy looked like this. And I was like, oh my god, I'm never gonna see Green Day live. This is gonna be such a shame. I lost my chance. And then they announced this, and I was so excited to see them. And then 2020 came around, and more years passed by. And I was kind of like, yeah, I mean, probably they're old now. They're gonna try their best, because I've seen old bands that still do amazing. But I wasn't expecting to have the same energetic, youthful charisma. It felt like it was Green Day from live shows that I've seen recorded from the 90s. I was amazingly surprised, and I literally have nothing to say about Green Day that I have no advice for them. Just do it the same. Just keep this show and do it forever the same, because it was something that I wish I could live again for the first time, for like every day for 1,000 years. Conclusions: if you want to go see any of these bands live, I would suggest go see Weezer. They're totally worth it. Go see Fall Out Boy, but don't expect to have an ecstatic, energetic, everything you would expect from a punk show. It's more of a relaxed, we're underground, we're not making eye contact kind of show, but still an amazing performance with outstanding vocals. But I don't need to further comment on that, because I know everyone knows Patrick is a god when it goes to voice and notes and stuff. And I would totally tell everyone to go at least to one Green Day show in their lives, because there's no experience like a Green Day show. I've actually sat down and thought, what other band made me feel so alive and so in the moment? And I think the only band that came to this level, and I think they're on a tie, it would be Queen with Adam Lambert. I know a lot of hate for liking Adam Lambert, but Queen managed to encapsulate the same energy and being there in the momentness with the public. So yeah, I guess that's it. I've got links to my Skillshare classes down in the description. I've got my studio website in the description, Instagram, Twitter, and I'll see you probably tomorrow to a new coffee talk. See ya!